crazy. Families watch desperately as their homes are engulfed under volcanic ash and mud. Their crops and farms also vanish, leaving them to rebuild from nothing only to lose it again. So why do they stay? Have you ever heard of the Ring of Fire? Indonesia sits in this region, a volatile area which contains roughly 75% of the world's active volcanoes and stretches for 25,000 miles along the edges of the Pacific Ocean. Countries like the United States, Peru, Japan, Chile, the Philippines, and New Zealand can be found alongside this region. Communities living close to a volcano often have a strong sense of attachment to it, especially if they've lived in the area for many generations. The volcano becomes a recognizable landmark, a source of communal pride, and a symbol of the people's identity. These volcanoes are also tied to the community's heritage as powerful natural forces or sacred sites, influencing local practices and values. But the answer lies in the soil. Volcanic eruptions along the Ring of Fire, especially in places like Indonesia with the world's most active volcanoes, are always catastrophic. Ash and lava spew from the volcano, darkening the sky and turning day into night, while raising temperatures to very hot levels, even reaching 1,250 degrees Celsius. The temperature is hot enough to melt steel, and under this weather, everything suffers. By the time the eruption ends, volcanic ash, which is a mixture of glass particles and tiny rock, covers the entire landscape. But here comes the most awaited moment for farmers and the neighboring communities. The force of the eruption sometimes removes land, increasing the number of displaced people. But in high-level eruptions, the lava can increase the land area and enhance the shape and beauty of the environment. Volcanic activity also helped places like Indonesia to become one of the highest producers of geothermal power, reducing their reliance on coal and oil to have sustainable energy. And without them realizing it, the volcanic ash is a major reason why Indonesia has been able to sustain its large population for generations. Right after an eruption, the ash is still harmful. The soil is too acidic and might damage existing crops. But when it starts to weather and break down, that's when the magic happens. The ashes contain high amounts of very important nutrients like phosphate, calcium, magnesium, and potassium. Combined with what already exists in the ground, this natural phenomenon actually renews the soil, making it richer and more suitable for plant growth. It takes time for the ashes to fully weather, but as biological processes continue to break it down, its nutrients are slowly absorbed into the soil, making it the perfect natural fertilizer. Volcanic soils also hold water better, which means plants can survive even in dry periods. At the same time, the soil doesn't get waterlogged, allowing excess water to drain and reducing the risk of root rot. Other farmers may focus on altering the soil's chemical properties to improve and support the growth of crops. Crop rotation is also a common farming practice in other places because it maintains soil health and prevents the buildup of pests and diseases. But farmers in Indonesia only have to worry about leveraging the inherent fertility and water retention properties of the soil to improve crop yields. So, the very forest that destroyed their land now becomes a blessing in disguise. With their soil being so fertile, farmers in Indonesia have the liberty to grow a range of crops in the most productive way. Places with volcanic soils make up only 1% of the world's entire land surface, but are able to provide enough crops to support 10% of the world's population. Farmers can now grow foods like rice and potatoes along with fruits such as bananas, mangoes, and papayas. Grapes also grow abundantly in this region, and Indonesia grows enough coffee and tea to support demand both at home and abroad. Over 40 million Indonesians turn to agriculture to support their families. And because of the plant-boosting minerals contained in the soil, they are able to thrive off the land. Citrus fruits like lemon and red oranges prosper in the environment since they take nourishment from the rich soil around the volcano. Crops grown in the area are often marked as high-quality specialty items capable of selling at high prices. These crops are recognized for their sweetness and distinct taste, antioxidant content, and size, which separates them from crops grown in other types of soil. Most of Indonesia's population live in Java, a small island surrounded by 45 active volcanoes, in order to benefit from what is considered one of the most fertile soils in the world. But it doesn't stop there. The new climate changes have brought new farmers eager to experiment with the soil through the use of mutation breeding and irrigation techniques. New varieties of rice, soybeans, and vegetables like chili, shallots, and eggplant have been developed to improve yield with shorter cultivation time. One major benefit is that these new varieties are more adaptable to climate change, resistant to diseases, and can withstand certain weather conditions. So, they're quickly becoming important contributors to the agricultural sector. This abundance doesn't come without cost. The people who live and farm in these regions are in a constant cycle of risk and renewal. Farmers know too well how devastating volcanic ash can be, especially when the plants are so young and can't stand on their own. But even with the fear of another eruption looming in the background, these communities carry on with resilience. It is a delicate dance with nature, and people are learning to adapt and make the most of the land. They have learned to understand the land and pass down traditional techniques that can't easily be taught in textbooks. The residents sense the changes in the air and feel slight tremors beneath their feet that others might ignore to judge when the eruption might occur. Thanks to advanced technology and seismic equipment, farmers can monitor volcanic activity and receive early warning signs to evacuate. If an eruption is imminent, crops have to be planted early to give them a better chance at surviving. Most times, farmers avoid planting completely to reduce the loss they endure during an eruption. Some communities already have emergency plans in place to quickly evacuate valuable livestock and crops and rebuild any property that was damaged during the eruption. After the ash settles, planting begins again as the farmers enjoy even more fertile soil. Despite this, help is rarely enough when disaster strikes. It is still hard to predict when an eruption might occur, and the communities living close to active volcanoes still don't get enough support to make emergency evacuations as effective as possible. Most times, it is hard for government officials to convince the rural population to stay away from these high-risk areas because of the farmland and valuable livestock that roam the land. So, when an eruption happens, they're often left to fend for themselves and manage whatever resources are available to rebuild. And still, the residents choose to stay. Why? Because leaving means more than walking away from the soil. It means leaving behind their identity, generations of culture, history, and their home. They would be giving up everything they've known. So, it's important that we recognize the sacrifices made to farm in one of the most volatile environments on Earth. Have you ever seen a volcano erupt, or have you lived in places where volcanic soil is abundant? Share your thoughts in the comments.